I'm going to make a series of videos about formal elements. Formal elements consist of things like line, tone, texture, pattern, shape, perspective, proportion. Okay, there are others that I'll touch on. This sketchbook is one that I've started because I had quite a lot of drawings, paintings, illustrations, lots of different things that I felt would be better in a sketchbook rather than in cupboards. So they're in here in the order of formal elements, starting off with line. Okay, so initially then, this first image is based on creating a farmyard scene using lots of different lines. So for example, here, straight lines using a ruler that are fairly regimental, which is a complete contrast to these quick dashes of lines that create the grass. You can see cross-hatching on here as well, lines and dots as a contrast. This was a fine liner. I used fine liner to create this. This is an image that I did create at school, which is quite a long time ago. I like this image still. I like it because the cows are out of proportion with the farmland, and this one is transparent and you can actually see the background through the body of the cow, and you know, with lines and marks creating the background. Okay, so there's lots of different contrasting images. This next one was my son when he was asleep. I'm going to read. This was one of the very rare moments I had to be creative at this time in my life. While he was sleeping, I quickly sketched him using a pencil, then used a fine liner and variety of lines and dots to add more detail. So again, there are vaguely wavy lines here, bits of cross-hatching, dots, lines for the outline, elements of pattern as well in the background using different types of lines. Okay. Right, this next one, this was drawn. I went out into a field in the middle of nowhere in just outside Florence in Tuscany, and this was a grape vine. Okay, so there are trees in the background with different types of lines, complete contrast to the hills here in the background. Again, you know, it's just using fine liner, I think this was, to create an image that captures lots of different lines and marks. This was inspired by an artist. I don't remember who it was at the moment, but I quite like this idea where you take a section and add some colour and then leave the rest black and white. Right, these two images again are inspired by my son. This was a creature off the TV. We used to still the video in the time when there were videos, and I would quickly sketch some of these characters. These very sketchy, scratchy lines to create the idea of this evil character. Okay. Not a straight line on there at all very quick as well, quickly sketched. This is a tracing of a photograph of my son that I used to do a painting, but again you can see it's all made up of line and you get the idea of the face. On these videos there might be little bits of information as well. You can actually still the video to have a read about formal elements. Normal elephants, if you forget. helps you to remember. This image was a drawing, a preparatory drawing for a print that I did. Again, a contrast of lines, straight lines fairly close together, then they sort of spread out a little bit here. Contrast between the line and the white of the page adds to the effect, and the background again is completely different, so it's about picking out different areas and experimenting in different ways. A character from Doctor Who, again, that I was requested to draw by my son. The staff that he's got here, again, is very scribbly, lots of scribbly lines. The same with the folds in the clothing, a bit of cross-hatching to add some tone. And this sketchy idea gets across the concept of this evil character. This was a tracing again for a print. This is actually the print, and I quite like these figures, the female figures and the horse here sort of in the background. Just very simple outlines that could be painted onto, sort of thing. You could add more detail to that. Right, finally, this is the last one. This is inspired by two illustrators, one called Brian Froud and one called Alan Lee, and they are interested in the characters that may or may not live at the bottom of your garden. This one in particular, he's a bit devilish. He's inspired by a pine cone, lots of different types of lines there to create this effect. Strawberry body, again, you know, different lines, circular lines, sketchy lines for his legs. And there's a lot of movement in this image because of the types of lines that have been created. And the idea is that he's having fun and playing around at the bottom of the garden, jumping over the mushroom. So, a good artist to look at when creating images using different lines is Albrecht Durer, who used to do wood print carvings on wood blocks for printing. And if you look at some of the images that he has produced, you can count how many different lines and marks that he has used, and then have a practice with lots of different ones.